to observe these. We stream them live to YouTube, so that is now going. The last thing I need to do is read through our hearing script. That basically just covers the procedure for the hearing, and then we'll jump right into the presentation from the applicant. So this is the May 4th, 2022 session of the Zoning Hearing Examiner docket. My name is David Sturkey. I'm the Zoning Hearing Examiner for the City of Cincinnati, and I'll preside over this hearing. The case before us today is case number ZH20220055. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any opposing parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the Zoning Hearing Examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any opposing party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing, unless a party has submitted evidence or testimony in the form of writing prior to this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. If there were anyone here from the public, they would have an opportunity to weigh in after the applicant had presented its case. I'll give the zoning plans examiner Wes Manzel an opportunity to provide any testimony in addition to his staff report. And then in the event any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to that argument against. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. So for our purposes here today, I'll give Mr. Hines or either Troy or Sadie an opportunity to tell me about the project, any background, anything you think is important for me to know about this project before I make a decision. And then of course, why you think this is an appropriate project and why I should grant the relief that you're requesting. I'll give Wes an opportunity to provide any testimony. Then I'll go back to you guys and let you guys make any closing statements or respond to anything that Wes has provided. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make any comments. I may also refuse to consider hearsay testimony. That's generally evidence you want to introduce that consists of statements made by someone who is not present here today. In the event of any technical difficulties or unforeseen circumstances with the video conferencing technology, I'll do my best to troubleshoot any tech issues on the fly, but to the extent there's some defect with the Zoom that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay, I think that's it. The last thing I need to do is just swear in all of our witnesses. If you intend on providing any testimony here today, asking any questions, making any comments, doing anything other than just strictly observing the hearing, then you need to be sworn in. So if that's you, if you could make sure that you're off mute, need everyone to answer out loud and to raise their right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. I do.
We do. I do.
Yeah, great. Fantastic. So who's going to be taking the lead for us here today on telling me about the project?
I guess I'll start with an overview. I know that Troy has been working a lot on some of the specifics with the drawings and design that I think have been submitted along with pictures, but I'm the homeowner and bought this house about 3 years ago. It used to be a rental, and I don't think the deck has ever been treated in the 15 years that it has been owned. So it's time to replace it. The wood is rotting, and so it's time to be replaced. Currently, the deck, and I believe that pictures have been submitted, it's a 2-story deck. My house is 20 feet in width, and the top deck goes pretty much all the way over to one side of the house. I think there's 2 or 3 inches to the very edge of the house. That's the top deck, and it goes 14 feet over to the other side. So there's about 6 feet, not quite 6 feet, about 5.5 feet to the other side of the house where the deck stops to the other side of the house. On the bottom, the deck, I don't know how to explain it. You can see it in the pictures, but the bottom, it's about 14.5 feet, but on the other side. So in total, like when you look at the at both decks going up, between the two, they extend the width of the house. So what I'm trying to do is just have the upper deck essentially align over the bottom deck, and then the bottom deck, instead of having stairs, go directly under the top deck. So instead of having 14 feet over here and then 14 feet over here. I'm just trying to make it the width of the house that is 20 feet across. So that's the essential thing that I'm trying to do with this project, and did not realize that I could not have a deck the length of my house, which is why we applied for the variance. So that's kind of the overview of what I'm trying to do. I know that Troy and others have submitted evidence. So I guess maybe Troy, you could follow up with some of the plans or kind of augment what I just said.
Thanks, Mr. Hines.
Yeah. So yeah, that's exactly what we're shooting for. Essentially, you know, he's got the upper deck, like he said, that's already existing, with a 4-foot landing / stair on the side of the house, which is already allowed by zoning. And then a lower deck that's kind of offset, and he's just trying to make it, you know, usable space. It's a very steep hill in the back to where it's not usable for anything else, and any, you know, very steep in the back. So a deck, in my mind, is the only way this lot could be usable. Secondly, the lot is kind of uncommonly narrow compared to the others on that street. So very uncommon to see one that narrow, which brings up the variance point, I guess. But it doesn't hinder upon any of the neighbors. I think the neighbors have testified that they're fine with it as well. And that's something we could probably get into. But yeah, the thing, you know, as far as the build, we're planning on overbuilding it. You know, extra strong engineers already designed it. So the build, you know, is appropriate. But yeah, we were just a little, you know, surprised that we'd have to go through this. It's new for everybody, I think. But
I would like to add one other thing, which I think, David, you sent a confirmation. Beth Basil, who owns 565 Hogue, which is the house south of me, who would have an interest in this. You know, I don't think this is hearsay since I introduced it. It was her email. You know, invited her to this, and you know, if there's any authentication issues,
no, that's fine. Remind me the content of the email.
I basically just said exactly what we just said, where she was asking, okay, what would this deck look like? And I said, you know, the bottom deck, from her perspective, would not go closer, except to the extent that the lot narrows, and I'm trying to go out an extra 2 feet. It would, I guess, get a little bit closer, just, you know, the further down you go on the lot. If you build it out 2 feet, it would get closer. But my understanding is that, you know, for the most part, the issue is just having a 20-foot wide deck. But you know, I said, okay, here's what the plan is going to be. The bottom deck is essentially going to be replaced but moved 2 feet out, and then the upper deck is going to be closer to your property by, you know, 4.5 feet, essentially being directly above the bottom deck. And she wrote a letter saying, you know, Adam explained this to me, and you know, so long as the deck is consistent with the plans just described, she did not have an objection to that.
Got it. Okay. I'm just trying to pull up that email actually, just to make sure it's incorporated in the record. But yeah, okay. I see that. Okay, got it. Thank you. Okay, just a couple quick questions for you guys. The existing deck, it's just a 1-story deck, right?
It's 2 stories.
The existing deck is 2 stories too?
yes.
Okay. Sorry. And does it extend the full width of the house?
No, like the top one goes 14 feet over from left to right, and the bottom one essentially goes 14 feet right to left. So they don't exactly align above one another. But if you were to go from the ground and just go directly up between the two, they extend the length of the house.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And then, and let's see. So they won't be extending past the side building envelope of the existing home, right?
Correct.
Okay. And let's see, in terms of, this also requires, is it a rear setback as well? What's the existing deck's rear setback versus what the new deck's rear setback will be?
I mean, you might have that, but I mean, that's not really a concern. I'd say
Looking for it.
70 versus 68 feet. I mean, there's nothing behind there.
It's pretty, yeah, I'm looking for it now, but it's definitely within scope of a normal. The rear setback, trying to find the actual number for you here, but it's pretty big. It wasn't an issue.
And the nearest house on Empress is hundreds of yards away.
Gotcha. Okay.
David,
Wes,
you might
did
want to ask the depth of the existing deck compared to the new deck. The new deck's 12 feet.
That's what I thought I was asking. So how far back does the existing deck extend, or in the alternative, how much further will the new deck extend towards the rear than the existing deck?
So the new deck is about 9.5 feet, and we're trying to go 12 feet. So an extra 30 inches.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks. And you said that the nearest house on the opposite street is hundreds of feet away. Is that right?
At least, yeah. I mean, you go down and then you go further and further down, and it goes down on a hill and then sort of up. I mean, I'm gonna guess. I mean, it's more than a football field. It's a long way away.
Gotcha. Okay. And it also looks like no extensive excavation is going to be needed. This is going to be on piers. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Yeah, I think that's, let's see. I think that's all the questions I have. Are you going to have to remove any sort of like trees or vegetation or mature trees in order to complete the construction? It doesn't sound like you will with the existing deck there, but I want to confirm that.
Maybe a small one that would be 6 to 8 inches in length on my property, but that would be it.
All right, I'd like to give Wes. Wes, do you want to add anything?
Well, I'll just highlight a couple things in the report about the lot sizes. That the other lots abutting are both wider than the subject property substantially. I think Troy mentioned the narrowness of his lot. So that skews the averaging for their setback calculation and requirement. And then also the subject lot is shallower than one of the lots next door, which also skews the rear yard averaging. So that creates kind of a little bit of a hardship. I thought that the design of the deck was reasonable given the context and such. 12-foot deep deck is really not that big, just enough space for a table and space to walk around the edges, that kind of thing. And they are matching the width of the house, so it's not going beyond what's kind of already there. But yeah, that would conclude my comments for the.
Got it. Okay. I don't think I have any other questions. Anything from Mr. Hines or the Vineyards in closing or otherwise before we adjourn here today?
You said it can take up to 2 weeks. Is that, I mean, it doesn't seem like to me there's any compelling arguments on the other side. I don't know what the process is on the as far as finalizing and when we would get the green light to go. I know I talked with Troy starting back in November, so I'm kind of eager while the weather's nice to get going as soon as possible. So I was wondering if you could kind of maybe just provide some context as to when we might be able to start the demo, assuming the hearing seems to be pretty positive here.
Yeah,
well, just because there's a lot of building issues, and I'll also be out of town, so I'm just trying to see when we could reasonably expect to have the green light for planning purposes.
Sure. I appreciate that. I'll run through the entire process. I just wanted to make sure that before I make a final decision, that there wasn't any other information that you wanted me to know about the project. You don't have to. I just required to give you an opportunity to make any closing remarks, and I'll run through the whole process here in just a minute, Mr. Hunt.
No, I'm okay.
Okay. Anything from the vineyards?
No, I think we've stated everything we need to.
Got it. Thanks. So yeah, I've had a chance to.
Sorry.
No. So I've had a chance to review the application documents and the staff report. Based on that and based on the testimony I've heard today, I'm going to approve the project. The code requires us to go through these hearings. I do agree with all of you that this is not a huge request that you're making in terms of zoning relief. I certainly see much bigger, but we do have to go through these steps and go through this process and make sure that we're giving everyone, including surrounding neighbors, an opportunity to come here and voice concerns if they had any. So I appreciate you all being here today and providing your time and your testimony. I am going to approve the project. So to answer your question, Mr. Hines, earlier, what I need to do is formalize that approval in a written decision. That is honestly, in most cases, particularly with cases this simple, where I've already made a decision, that's what takes the most time. We are seeing, I think it's just this time of year, we see a lot of projects coming in. So I do have a little bit higher volume. I do anticipate that it will be closer to a full 2 weeks before I am able to provide that decision. In order for Wes in the zoning department to approve the permits, they need to actually see that written formal decision. And so as soon as I finish it, I put it into a PDF, I email it to everybody who's in the hearing, including Wes. So everyone will have a copy of it, really just moments after it's complete. As soon as you have that copy, you can work with Wes, and Wes can approve the permits. If you haven't already applied for the permits or submitted that documentation to Wes, you can do that. If you have, it looks like Sadie's saying you have. So it sounds like you probably have everything in place. You just need that decision. And like I said, as soon as Wes gets it, he can hit the green light on the permits. And then after that, I honestly don't know how long it takes to get things going after that. That's sort of out of our hands, but yeah, does that answer your question, Mr. Hines?
Yeah, Wes, so there's nothing on your end that would hold anything up once we get the decision from David. I mean, it's pretty much automatic that the permits would get approved.
Well, I would approve the zoning, that day when I get the decision, but the permit also is reviewed by other departments, so I don't know what their thing is, their status. I suppose you could call the permit department and ask them if there's any other departments that have an outstanding issue or anything, which maybe that's all been addressed over the last couple of months, but I'm not sure. But as far as zoning, I can approve the zoning immediately after receiving the decision.
And where I was going with this is, would I be prejudiced at all if we started the demolition of the deck? Meaning, because I don't need I need the permit to rebuild the deck, but if I can start the demo process in the next week in anticipation of this, it just seems as though everything I'm hearing here is that we have a person that is an attorney for the city that is going to issue a decision favorable to me. The zoning is going to be approved, and that all outstanding parties are in agreement. So this seems to be pretty ministerial to me that this is going to happen. So I guess I'm wondering, I guess I'm just wondering, is there anything that could possibly derail this such that I can start with the demo, even if I can't start with the build for another 2 weeks?
So yeah, Wes, I'll let you jump in, but I think I'll say, I think what we're saying today, me as the attorney for the city and the zoning hearing examiner and Wes for the zoning department, is that there will be no holdups in regards to zoning approval. But but there are other departments that review these permits. And so we can't promise you that there won't be any other issues with those departments. I don't think that there will be. Typically, there's not on projects like this, but I would hesitate to tell you for certain anything, or to recommend that you begin the project or begin the demolition before getting all of the permitting complete. I think that is a personal risk that you'll have to assess on your own, whether you're willing to take.
And my last question here is, after say 2 weeks from today, you issue the written decision and the zoning is approved that day. Do you have any comments on the timeline from after that point? What all needs to happen before everything is greenlit?
Well, as we mentioned, there's several departments that look at the permit, including zoning. So once I approve it, then the building department would be the ones that actually issue the permit. So then you'd contact them and say, I know zoning's been approved, can you issue the permit? And then they would, do that.
Do you know how long that typically takes?
No, I mean, if I were you, I'd definitely call on the same day David issues his decision or whatever, and assuming, make sure I've hit yes on it, but to ask them about getting the permit paperwork completed that day or as soon as possible.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Hines, yeah, I would say, I think some of these questions we can't answer just because we're not the building department, but I think you can contact them anytime after this hearing. Frankly, you don't have to wait for the decision to come. You can contact them and say, hey, I've been told that I'm getting approval. I'm just waiting for the decision. Is there anything I can do to help expedite this process with you? Because I know that there are going to be some reviews from the building department before the permit is issued. So I think that'd be the best way to make sure that this goes through as quickly as possible. But my understanding is that generally that's a pretty quick process, and we try to move people along and cut down on as much red tape as possible. So I would talk directly with the building department, because I just don't think we can answer those questions with 100% certainty.
Understood.
Yeah, make sure when you call them, just ask them, has sewer department approved it and water department? Because they're basically looking to make sure there aren't any like underground pipes, I think
that I do get emails from MSD, and they had no objection to this. So I don't think that will be an issue, but I would talk with the building department directly on that.
Okay.
Yeah, call them soon and get those other departments on the up and up that they're ready to approve it, or they've already approved it.
Yeah.
All right.
And I'll do everything I can to get this out to you as quickly as possible, Mr. Hunt.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Any other questions about anything in the process or anything else?
Not for me.
All right, great. Well, good luck with the project, guys. Hope everything goes well. Hope it's as quick as possible for you so you can enjoy the weather. And I think we'll leave it at that. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks again. And we are adjourned.